Hey everyone, I got a great indoor project today. I got kind of a bad cold this weekend, so I'm gonna be working in the house. And I picked up this cabinet. Looks to be an old 40s or 50s cabinet on Marketplace. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use it for bar glasses. And so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put some lights in there. And I'm going to show you how to wire them up and what tools you'll need to do it. And it's pretty easy, actually. So here's everything I'm going to use. I'm going to need to drill the holes for the sockets. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use these sockets. They take regular, I think, C9s or C7s. I forget which it is for the smaller candelabra bulbs. And I'm going to use this as the main power cord, this extension cord. Pretty heavy duty wire, and I'm going to use these spares as additional wire, and I always buy extension cords when I see them at yard sales and estate sales because it's pretty good wire. It's heavy insulated wire, great for projects like this. Right, Nacho? And I'm going to need some wire strippers, some clips, some shrink tubing, and some blue tape. And that's about it. So it should take about an hour, maybe, to get the whole thing done. Maybe less, depends. I'm working a little bit slower today. I don't feel that well. So, hey, let's get busy. Well, we've got 6 sockets, so we're going to do 2 per section. Unfortunately, these lights have very short wires, so we're going to do the wiring from the back of the cabinet. So let's just worry about kind of placement with these. These are probably, about 6 inches or 8 inches from the edge, about 8 inches from the edge, and we'll make them straight down. The other ones will go right below the shelf. So pretty easy to figure out the location. We're just going to use a tape measure, and we're going to put painter's tape down in the corners where we're going to be drilling on, and that'll help stop this laminate from chipping and cracking when the hole saw goes through. All right, let's mark it off. So my determination for where I'm going to place these is about 8 inches from these outer walls and about 2 inches from the shelf. So I've got the blue tape there, and I'm just going to mark it. All right, let me show you how they're marked off. You've essentially got a center point where the 2 lines intersect. That's where your drill bit is going to go. And the drill bit, we're going to use a 3/4 bit, and it's got a center. This is going to go, this point here will go right. Oh, I need some light in here so you can see, but it'll go right where the intersection is. Is that a little better? Can you see that right there? So I'm going to need to put extra tape down on these because I just kind of put it there. It's not in the greatest location in any of these. Let me put some extra tape down, and then we'll put a couple holes in it. Okay, again, the tape is kind of important, and the reason being is you'll see these drilling holes in this stuff tends to rip the thin veneer off. you see we've got a clean hole. Let's look at our socket. These have a washer on the end. Let me get that off. See how it splits out here? So that's why you want to drill from the inside. And then this will just push through. Sorry. Here you go. So that's how they're gonna mount. All right, I'm gonna drill the other holes. And then you've got this washer sort of screw on to hold it. So let's see, I'm curious how we did with the veneer inside and the tape. And you'll need some light to see that. So let me get a light and I'll show you how well we did. Okay, I got a drop light. There it is with the socket in there. We did really well. We just got to put the lock nut on there. It'll completely hide any scrapes, but we did really well. That's great. It didn't chip up the veneer at all. So I am going to do the next 5, and then we'll be back with the next step. All right, that's it for drilling. Right, Nacho? That was loud. Yeah, that's no fun. All right. Got all our holes ready to go for the sockets. Let's put the sockets in, tighten them in with the, hopefully there's enough socket here. There's not much here for this to grab, so hopefully it's enough. Let me mount the sockets. I'll be right back. So mounting sockets from the back, and I wanted to show you, this is why you go from the inside to the out. So see, even if I had blue tape on here, it would have still splintered that veneer. And it's okay on this side of it to split it, but you certainly don't want that on the inside. So let me put the rest of the sockets in and then we will commence with the wiring. Okay, here's the wiring with the sockets coming out of the back. So, as I said, these wires are all very short. What we're going to want to do is build a harness that's going to give the same voltage to each one. So essentially, I'm going to take our main feed, which will be this heavy wire, and I'm going to clip this end off. Might as well do that right now. So what we want it to act like is we want to act like each one of these is connected to each one of these. So we're going to build a harness that's going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, so let me get to work on that. Okay, there's a couple of ways you can wire this up. So all right, so let's look at how I did it, and I'll give you an optional way that, you know, you might find is more helpful or better for you. Anyway, here's the hutch, there's the feet. You got 6 lights, or 6 sockets. And I'm gonna switch to colors here. We've got a power cord, there's your 2 prongs. You essentially got sorry, I don't have a red or something more obvious. but you've got your wires coming up. Now each of these sockets has 2 wires as well. To make it more obvious how to do this, I'll use black. Blue, technically some people say hot and cold, but you want your electricity to flow through. So you're going to take, what I did was I took these wires and I immediately split them. Oops, sorry, that's black. And made 2 and 2. Now that doesn't mean 2 going here, 2 going here. It means 1 and 1 are going. So you're going to take your first black wire. Let's just do that. Second black wire goes there. And your first blue wire goes here. Your second blue wire goes there, okay? So now you've got essentially these wired. So you've got a loop already. Your electricity can come in and go back. So it comes in on the hot wire and goes back on the black wire. So now it's just a matter of you redo these guys. Just connect. Okay? And then your black wire, and then your black wire, and then your black wire. So that's how I did it. But let's look at an optional way of doing it. Sorry, these pens are rolling all over the place. So let me draw another cabinet. Because this is an option, this other option might work for you even better. Okay, here's your cabinet. Here's your 6 lights or sockets. And okay, so where did my black go? Okay, so you've got a power cord. Your wires are coming in. So what I did here was I split it right there, but you don't really need to do that. Here's your 2 wires. Coming off the lights. So realistically, you can make a string right across and just run them like this. We're gonna jump over that guy. I'm gonna go to black, and then we're gonna go to black again. I'm gonna go all the way over to black, and all the way over to black, and black. So what you've done here, excuse me, is you made a set of string lights, essentially. So your electricity just flows. Let's follow the blue. It goes in all these lights, and then it comes out all these lights. Whereas here, I made 2 loops. So it goes in all these lights and comes back. It goes in all these lights and comes back. Both work. There's even other ways of doing this, but I chose this way. I don't know, it's more symmetrical to me. I don't know why. All right, I hope this helps. Here's your outlet there, since I forgot to draw it. But I hope this helps explain it a little bit closer. Back to the video. So here's my first section right here. So I had to add an extension wire to this. And so all I needed to do was connect. And so these are the solder shrink tubing connectors. And again, I do just lightly crimp to hold them in place. So I'm going to do a jumper wire over here for the next set as well. So we're going to make another jumper wire for these. So before we attach the wires, we put the two shrink tube connectors on. Then twist the wires together, fold them over, slide the shrink tubing on so that the crimp is over the exposed wire, crimp being where the solder is, and then just kind of clamp it down a bit so it doesn't move. Do the same for the other one. Twist the wires together, pull them down, slide that over. It's in the right spot, which appears to be right there. I'll lightly crimp it. You know, another advantage to kind of doing it this way is I can get this whole thing wired up before I have to turn on the heat gun. So it's pretty hot out, so that's a bonus. Okay, we're just gonna cut this guy, split it. Now, it's going to get a little trickier down here. And down here it gets a little more interesting. So we can connect these guys to these guys, and these guys to these guys, but they also need to connect to the sockets up here. So with this, we've got two sets. Now, unfortunately, these wires are so short that they're not going to connect in a center hub. They can connect like that, and they could have even connected up there, I think. But since they're not long enough for them all to connect, we're gonna have to build yet another junction. So let me see. I'm gonna go out to the garage and see if I've got some additional crimps that are big enough for this. If not, we're just gonna solder and shrink tube. I'll be back. Okay, I don't have these crimps big enough for this. So makes sense too once I see what I've got to do. So you're taking two wires from here, two wires from this socket here, and two wires from this socket here, and your connector wire here. So all told, you've got 2, 4, 6, 8 wires coming together. And you know, just make sure you don't connect any two from the same source. So you've got positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. So, and then we're gonna put a little flux on this, and then we're gonna solder it and put some shrink tubing on it, and we'll be done with that side. It seems more complex than it is. These are not polarity sensitive at all. This is AC wiring. So you just have to have the electricity passing through the bulb to get it to light. All right, so let's solder these, and then put the shrink tubing on, and then move on to the second side. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just gonna add a little flux. I'll get the drop light over here so we can run the soldering iron. You don't have to put a lot of this on, just, it's very goopy stuff. I don't have a little electronic solder flux, so we'll just use this stuff. Get the soldering iron warmed up. See smoke coming off it? It's usually getting pretty close to being ready. I did put cardboard down there in case any of the solder drips, which it just did. That's one. I think we got it. A little more. Okay. Let that cool down. Put the soldering iron down. Let it cool off, and then we'll put the shrink tubing on, and then we'll move on to the other side. Let's take a look. So we've got them soldered, and then we're going to move on. We're going to connect them to that. So once they cool off, which should only be about a minute, I'll put the shrink tubing over them, and then heat it up. Well, I may not heat them up yet. I'll just do this side yet next. So let's get to work on doing the exact same thing for the other side. These are central, so I'm going to kind of use these as the main hub where the shrink tubing is going to go. I'm just going to twist them together. And then this is the third socket. The top lights. Twist those in. Okay, get a piece of connector wire. Split it. I'm going to strip these a little longer just to make sure I have enough to kind of wrap around the other 6 wires. Okay, we're fully wrapped. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing still. And now we're going to put some flux on it. And then we'll solder these. We're getting pretty close. Plenty hot enough. Let's go in. You get it? Looks it. I wish the light on this worked. I don't know when it stopped working. Oh, there we go. that cool off. And now that that's cooling, we should be able to go back to here, this guy, and let's look and see how well our shrink tubing is going to actually fold over. Yeah, I'll wrap up the solder because we are done soldering. So these are cooled. So we're going to basically go 2 and 2. All right, nope, we're not going to be able to do that. I have to go fold the solder joint over and fold all the rest, all the wires that way. Now that's how the shrink tubing is going to work. Okay, and we're good with there. That is cool enough. We can do this guy too. So again, if you can see how I'm doing this, I'm pointing the solder connection up towards the one wire with the shrink tubing on it, and then the shrink tubing is going to go over that and over the other 3 wires. Now, we're pretty close actually. We got to do our connector, about the same length for these 2. I'm going to hook up the power cord. I wouldn't be surprised actually if they sold these sockets with plugs on them. Now, if that were the case, and they probably do, if they have plugs, you could just mount a power strip back here and just plug them all in, and that would be considerably easier than all this, but then you wouldn't learn anything if I made a video like that. Nor would I have the fun of doing it. I've got flux on my fingers. It's making me slippery. Sorry, I'm sniffling a lot. Can't help it. Came on me yesterday, just very quickly. I was fine, and then the next hour I was like, oh, I'm really sick. All right, so here, we're gonna connect 2 to the main power cord. So what do I do with the main power cord? Right here. There's our main power cord. Let me lower this. Because we're working down here now. I may actually need to solder these. I think I am gonna solder these. I was thinking I wouldn't, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna solder these. Because we do have quite a few wires here. I don't know if I'm not gonna put the shrink tubing on that. I'm gonna put the shrink tubing on the main feed. This might be actually overkill for this. This might be too big for this one. Let's go a little smaller. Okay, this is better. This is a better size. Okay. All right, so we've got 2 wires on this side and 2 wires on this side and 2 wires coming in. So it's going to be 1 wire coming in, goes to there. 1 wire coming in, goes to there. Now, see this? This gets a little tricky. Now what do you do? It's not tricky at all. It's basically the same as if you were connecting these 2 wires to these 2 wires. That's all you're doing. You're two incoming are going to these two. And your two incoming are also going to these two. Now, if the camera's not aimed right and you can't see this, this is all for naught. So I sincerely hope it's aimed right. All right, so let's put some solder down on these guys. Could you see that? I hope so. Looks like you could see that. So essentially you got two wires right here for the power, and they're just going to these two. And then two from the power are going to these two. So it's very easy. These are considered completely separate entities now. All right, so let's solder these guys, put the shrink tubing on, and then hit it with the heat gun. And we'll move on. The seat's up. Let me lower the camera down. Get a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is almost like a merging of the Ys. So here's your power cord right here. And there's two wires running up. And here's your right side two and your left side two. Essentially, these two wires need to connect to these two, but they also need to connect to these two. So it's pretty straightforward. And you're going to do that, and then you're going to do that, and this is going to come down, and this is going to come down. Now, this wire is here, this wire is here, but this wire is also going there. And this wire is also going there. So you see you've got two wires that branch right, same two wires branch left. Now it ends up really looking like this. And that's it. I thought you might find this little additional info kind of helpful. We're wiring these lights up in what is known as parallel. And I'm sure you've heard old-time Christmas lights were set up that if one went out, they all went out. And I'll show you why that was. And, you know, this hasn't been the case for 60 or 70 years because lights are not done in series anymore. They are all done in parallel. But so here's your lights. So you have your prong, well, here's your plug. You plug it in, and here's how they used to do it. Duke, 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 duke. So the electricity would come in, kind of like what we're doing, and run back out. Except you'll note that if the wire breaks or a bulb blows, because the electricity is running through the bulb in the socket, then it breaks the chain, and so the electricity can't loop through. The way we wired it in parallel, each one of these lights, let me go to our drawing, each one of these lights has its own set of hot and cold wires going to it. So don't do it that way. I mean, it'll work as long as your bulbs work, but it's just not the way you want to go. It's not as robust a system at all. All right, I hope you found that helpful. Should be plenty hot. some reason I'm having trouble aiming that. We're good there. Okay, let's do this guy. Sure, that hot flux running down that shrink tubing is going to cause me a problem. Okay, we're soldered. Let's let that cool. Everything cool off. We're done soldering. I'll unplug the soldering iron. Let it cool off before I move it anywhere. And next step is put the shrink tubing where it's going, and then hitting it with a heat gun. I'll be back. Okay, all our shrink tubing is in place. Let's hit it. I'm going to do these guys first because I don't require the gun to be quite as hot. Okay, move up to these guys. Okay, and lastly, to our two, let's see, French connectors. And these guys, well, I'm gonna drop the camera. And the breaker on that just went. I'll be back. I didn't bring my wooden support for this, so I'm going to hold it for a minute. Alright, everything's cooled down. We're in the testing phase. So before I actually tape down the wiring and confirm that everything's good, I'm going to put bulbs in. So these are the type of bulbs I'm using. These are an amber candelabra base LED. They give kind of an antique light. Now for glasses, you may want a pure white LED. Up to you. I kind of like the antique look since this house was built over 100 years ago. And if I ever use this for liquor bottles, the amber I think will look nicer. Well, so one of these bulbs right out of the box was bad, but I still have two spares. So Gen X Green, I'm calling you out. All right, let's close the doors here. I'll back the camera up and I'll plug it in. You'll get to see what it looks like. Unless, of course, I did something wrong. Well, we don't think that happened. Nice, huh? Look at that. All right. So now that we know the wiring's good, we're gonna tape it down in the back. Could use staples, but they'll just end up going right through that 1/4-inch veneer. So let me unplug it. So I'm gonna tape it down with this super sticky, I don't know if that's 3 inches wide electrical tape. This stuff is great. You don't have a lot of uses for it, but when you need it, it's fantastic. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're all taped up, and this is not a step that's really required. I just like to tie it down because when I move it, once it's up against the wall, you're not going to see any of this. So right here, behind here is where the drawer is. So I'm okay with that's where I put a tension on the power cord, so that will be safe there. But all right, so I'm gonna clean up. I'm gonna put some tools away, and then we'll see about putting this thing in place. Okay, I've got the cabinet in place, and now I'm gonna use my Howard's finish restore just to go around some of the spots where it's got a couple scratches and stuff. And let me show you that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glove on, because as I said, when I used this stuff in the past, it does kind of stain your skin. All right, so we're just going to put a little bit on the rag. And then, see, we get a couple little, nothing major, little scratches. Just gonna rub it in. Sorry, I kind of missed that one. This cabinet is in very good shape for the most part. Let me get a little more. Let me get down here. I don't know if there's really much. There's a little scratch there. Okay, we took care of that guy. Maybe he's in here. A couple scratches. Yep, there's one. A couple around the handles, which I guess is pretty normal. Oh, these have some scratches. Okay, so here's something we can see. Let me get one more little out of this stuff. All right, there's a couple good scratches. So you see, that pretty much covers them up. And then, you know, just, there's one there. There's a scratch right there. I'm doing this quick so as not to waste a lot of your time. Most of it will eventually just dry into it, but boy, you can see this is dry wood. Quite dry. All these little scratches like that, they just go away. And then when you've got it on heavy, you can just buff it a little bit, take some of the excess out. Like that. See? So it doesn't show the swirls quite as much where you applied it. All right. Oh, missed that guy there, and I don't think I have anything on the rag to get it. It's all right. So my finger is in front of the camera. It is. Was it that whole time? I don't know. Could be because I'm actually holding the camera upside down this time. By mistake. Okay, so this spot here and these little spots, it's probably a bit much for this stuff to handle. I'll probably have to add some stain. It'll kind of work. Actually worked pretty good there. I guess because it absorbed it so quick. Well, this is a little bit more than I expected it to do. This little guy in there. All right. All right, cool. So with that, we're ready to light it up. Go back to the tripod. Back up a bit and show you. So one of the things that I do, yeah, definitely I have been carrying this camera differently than usual, so I'm gonna flip it. Had I been buying an extension cord for this, I would have bought one with a little switch built into it, but I was just using the ones I had. So you can buy these on Amazon, and these will work with almost any extension cord. They're just 2 prongs, and it's just a switch. So I just, where I plug the extension cord in, I just put that in. So let's see it. I have it plugged in. There you go. All right. So aside from the camera being tilted, there you have it. So let's look at what the little bulbs in there. See? So I use these bulbs. Let me see if we can get it clear. They stick out a little bit more. So rather than just being light at one end of it, it kind of lights up the whole cabinet. But it looks pretty good. If you're curious, here's one I did last year with bottles in it. So you can see a lot of bottles in there. All right, so that's it. Not bad. I mean, if you don't have the extension cords, you can buy them. They're pretty cheap. I think maybe $15, $20 in extension cords is all you'd need. And then the bulbs, I'll put a link to those. You can use any candelabra size bulb in these sockets. You don't have to pay anything special. You can just use what we used to call Christmas light size bulbs. But if you want these, I can put a link to this specific bulb because they do look nice. You may want, if you're putting crystal in there, you may want to use the more white LEDs. I use the amber ones because it's an old house and I like the kind of antique look. But these cabinets are pretty easy to come by. There must have been a lot of them. They're not particularly expensive. But they're very well built. I believe they're kind of a Duncan Fife style, and I see them on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist all the time. In fact, I've got several of them in the house, and there's very different styles. You can get wider ones. You can get the low buffet style Hutches. You can get all sorts of different styles of them. They don't go for much. So $50 for one of these, $100, $150, depending on the shape. This one clearly had some chips and things, so that's probably why it was $50. But certainly not expensive when compared to new furniture. And this is real wood. This is good stuff. So I think my total bill for this, including the Hutch, was about $100. So, hey, you can't beat that. You know, it looks great for $100. So, hey, if you want to take on something like this and you got $100 and you need a cabinet for your glasses, or you want to put some liquor in there or whatever have you, collections or whatever, adding lights to it is no big deal. Very, very easy. So don't be intimidated. Just go out, get busy. Take care.